You might actually be the most derivative one of all. I mean, Christ, the same house.
Maybe so, but you forgot the first rule of surviving a stab movie. Never answer the...
I'm bored.
Wait!
And welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking Elton John is gay? We're talking See Paris Die, and we're talking twincest? And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking I Am Being Careful.
Ugh. God.
Everyone, we are discussing Jaume Collet-Serra's 2005 film House of Wax, which is a quote-unquote remake of the 1953 Vincent Price film House of Wax, which was itself a remake of 1933's Mystery of the Wax Museum.
Actually, Trace, push his glasses up nose. Did you know it's not really a House of Wax remake? It's like a Motel Hell remake.
Motel Hell, tourist trap. No, okay, everyone, we're getting this out of the way right now. So there is a difference, because yes, so many reviews at the time, and especially if it was written by a horror fan, pointed out that this is not really a remake of House of Wax. It is a remake of Tourist Trap. And there is a difference between having a conversation and be like, oh, well, did you know this is actually more of a Tourist Trap remake than it is a House of Wax remake? And as you so eloquently put, push his glasses up, well, actually, it's a Tourist Trap remake.
Well, I feel like a lot of the conversations that we've had about this movie over the last couple of years, like, it has changed. I feel like people have come back around on it. But I remember initially people were very down on this movie, and I think that was one of the ways that we were dismissive of it as a culture. The funny thing is that this is also still very clearly a remake of the original House of Wax. Like, if you've seen it, the storyline of people being killed and covered in wax is very firmly there. So it's not as though it's not a House of Wax remake. It just, yes, also happens to have those tourist trap elements.
So yeah, unfortunately, I was not able to watch the original House of Wax. I've never seen it, but I know, there is that element there. But I guess maybe the thing is that Tourist Trap is more of a slasher film than House of Wax is.
Yeah, there's a weird period romanticism to the original film. Like, to me, it almost plays like a Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah. I've seen, like, the end of it, because doesn't he get, like, thrown into acid at the end or something?
Are you confusing it with House on Haunted Hill?
Oh, shit. Maybe. Oh, God. Which I did. I did watch that original before we covered the remake. Man, Dark Castle, really going through those remakes, huh?
Oh, sure. This was their bread and butter back in the day, baby.
I have so many. So, yes, I love this movie. I saw this twice in theaters.
Oh, okay. I only saw it the one time, but go on.
It's just, it's such an interesting time capsule of 2005. Yes. And we'll talk about the reception of this film and why it did not do well. Although, fun fact, it made its money back on home video sales.
Oh, really? Yeah, because I see a bunch of people, if you kind of look at articles from not quite back in the day, but I was researching the See Paris Die controversy.
Right.
And a lot of films would say it made $70 million on a $40 million production. And I was like, folks, that's not good. Like, that's not a good number.
It's also worldwide. Like, domestically, this movie made $32 million on a $40 million budget. And while, yes, you can be like, oh, well, the international made up for it, they still have to spend more money to put this movie out in other countries. So
yeah. And a lot of the times when you're releasing a film internationally, it may not always be the same distributor. So that sometimes that's like, oh, that's somebody else's money. The people who were bankrolling it didn't get that.
Well, and that's the thing, too. I think a lot of the marketing campaign for this movie, and we'll talk about it more in a bit, but it was very much pandering to the youth of America, thinking they would turn out for a certain thing, and they did not.
No.
None of the marketing was actually like showcasing the film itself, except for the trailer.
It literally is the See Paris Die show, which is a hell of a risky venture. I mean, I've got some details about why Paris was so hot at the time, but really, I think it dismisses the quality of the film and everything else it's doing to say, really, the only reason people would come to this movie is so that they can see an heiress get killed.
Which, and I will confess, I'm going to put shame on myself. Like, I absolutely, like, I wanted to see it anyway because I was like, oh, I love this cast of people. Right. Like, these people were hot at the time.
Oh, so hot. Still are hot, but yes.
That being said, did I absolutely go to the theater to see Paris die? And then me and my friends, I'm 16 at the time, all yelled, "That's hot," when she died. Oof. Yes, and I'm very embarrassed by that.
I mean, here's the thing. We can put it into a bit, I think you even said, it's a bit of a time bubble, a time capsule. We we're doing things very differently with our approaches to celebritydom and social media influencers at the time. I think as a culture, we have grown and maybe come to appreciate that we were all pretty shitty to a certain group of people back then.
Very much so. Although, actually, let's just jump into it. Okay, so...
Okay.
I don't have a lot of production history because here's the thing. All right, this movie was filmed at Warner Brothers Movie World in Australia in May of 2004. They built this whole town. I mean, again, everyone, this is a $40 million...
It's a lot of money on a slasher. Holy shit.
What this is. So this script is pretty basic. I think the script is fine. The dialogue is meh. The character work is meh. But what we have here is a pretty silly, dumb 80s slasher movie that Dark Castle said, here's $40 million. Here's a really good, stylish director. Do something with it. And they made something. I will give it this, though. The reviews at the time were mostly negative. But even the bad ones would at least commended the production design on this film.
I mean, when you go into a Dark Castle film, yes, this is a little past the heyday when we were doing 13 Ghosts, when we were doing House on Haunted Hill. Like, it's coming in the back part of Dark Castle. But the reality is for me, at the time, the selling feature of going to these was exquisite production and set design. I
mean, there are things that I noticed in this watch, because the camera doesn't focus on everything, but it's whenever John Abraham's Dalton dies and he falls down that stairwell, and you can see faces of victims in the wall. I think that is so cool.
Oh, it's wild. The amount of time and attention to detail that they were putting into these sets is immaculate. And then you think about, this could have been the second kick at a can because we burned down most of this.
Yes. So that's the other thing too. Yeah. So in January of 2007, during the filming of this movie, the entire, not the set, the studio burned down.
Wild. Absolutely wild.
I was trying to figure out so basically it's because they had, they used all the precautions. The problem is that because they have this big house and it's 2 stories, the fake wax that was melting from the top floor was leaking onto the fire retardant things on the first floor.
Oops. Which
then caused the fire. And so, one of the sets that took 2 weeks to rebuild, which is fine, but the other one was 10 to 12 weeks to rebuild. So, they did a lawsuit, but here, honestly, that's not even the most fascinating thing about this production. What is the most fascinating thing about this production? Joe, you pointed this out to me and suggested that I watch it, and I did last night. And the month before this movie came out, MTV released a documentary series called Movie Life House of Wax. And it's basically a reality television version documenting the production of this film from the first day of set to the marketing blitz. And it's 5 episodes. It's on YouTube. You can literally find a clip. We'll link to it in the show notes. It's an hour and 45 minutes, but
about that.
It's, this time period, the peak of the reality TV era. And while I would have appreciated just a straightforward documentary about the production of this film, you can see the influences of reality TV because they are trying to make drama out of everything in this thing.
Oh my God. It's so unscripted in quotation marks. It feels scripted.
Y'all, there's a whole bit. The first episode, Chad Michael Murray he brings his new puppy that he spent $10,000 on to Australia.
Oh my God.
And they show him going to the vet, and the vet's like, uh-oh, he only has 1 testicle. And they stretch out this ordeal with Chad Michael Murray being upset about his dog's 1 testicle for 3 episodes.
It is a whole to-do.
Well, and I don't think Alicia Cuthbert brought in drama, and so in her first scene, they try to make her look kind of like a bitch by getting really picky about her wardrobe.
Yeah, she comes in, she's there later than everybody else, she's not bonding with the rest of the cast, and she's being a diva about the costume fitting. What a C-word.
Well, and she was only late because production on 24 ran longer than expected.
Oh, it is wild. It is fascinating. You are getting little glimpses, interesting kernels about the actual production. But I will say, Trace, and you confirmed this to me, so I feel validated. It makes all of these people look like rich, entitled fuckwads.
Yes, and before I even get to that part of it, just really quick, Robert Richard is not in this documentary anywhere.
And it is embarrassing because this cast is white.
Very white. But I'm like, well, did they film all of his scenes solo? Was he not there with any of them when they filmed this? He's not
I'm literally
anywhere.
Worried that they were thank you for your service. We will not be needing you because you're not famous enough.
I think that's exactly what it was. And to be fair, I'm embarrassed. I don't, you probably didn't watch this because you're too old, but like I know Robert Richard from this Nickelodeon show called Cousin Skeeter from like, I want to say the late 90s. It's basically, it's him and it was a family show, a black family actually. So obviously like, you know, it was progressive, I guess, for the time for kids TV, but he just has a puppet that he talks to, like one of those like Sesame Street puppets, but it's a black male puppet named Skeeter.
Nice. Okay, cool.
But yeah, no, I will say Cuthbert comes across fine. Paris Hilton comes across like Paris Hilton, although there is a really sweet moment where she goes and surprises some girl's birthday party. But it's a Paris Hilton themed birthday party for this 13-year-old girl.
Weird.
And I think around this time is when South Park did the stupid spoiled whore video where they spoof Paris Hilton and like girls wanting to be whores because of her. And so it's just that time period. Jared Padalecki actually comes off the best out of all this group. And then...
Yeah, because he doesn't engage in any of the drama.
No. And he's just like, honestly, you can tell he's coming off of Gilmore Girls. I think by this point he was about to start Supernatural.
Right.
And he just seems really happy to be there.
Yeah, he's like, I'm working, I'm in Australia, happy to be here.
But... Chad Michael
Oh my God.
Murray.
The worst.
I would be embarrassed if I were him. I would want this wiped from the face of the earth. I would not want anyone to see this. The second episode is all about him like wanting to talk to his dad because he's going to propose to his then girlfriend Sophia Bush, and they videotape him proposing to her, and it's like, so much of this documentary is cringe, and this is the bulk of it.
Yeah, I think he gets the villain edit whether he knows it or not.
He comes across like, he comes across like when Justin Bieber was very much appropriating black culture. He kind of comes across like that in this documentary.
Yeah. And folks, if you're wondering why we're spending a bunch of time on this, it's because it really does help to contextualize where we were at when this film came out. Like, this to me feels like the most deliberately cast of maybe any of these remake / teen to film slasher films. Like, it very much was who is hot right now, literally, with Paris Hilton. And let's get them in this movie, and then we just also happen to make a movie about it.
Well, that's the thing. I never really put this in the post-Scream slasher boom because it's not meta, it's not self-aware.
Right.
But this is Dark Castle's first slasher movie, so I wonder if they just got late to the game in the whole, hot CW teen actors in a slasher movie, let's do it. Here's $40 million.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, so bringing in again to the time of this, you know, you already mentioned the See Paris Die marketing campaign, and that is what this was. So leading up to the film's release, you know, we had See Paris Die everywhere. There were t-shirts made, there were stickers on store walls, and spoiling the movie, I can't imagine something like this would happen nowadays.
No. Here's the thing. I feel like we look back on this, and similar to what you said Chad Michael Murray should be doing, we should want to be very embarrassed and cringe about this because it is deeply misogynistic. We can find evidence that at the time Paris says she's okay with this, and she very clearly will later come to regret that because I think she realizes, I was being taken advantage of, and it's not okay.
So here's the thing, though. I think she always knew that. And y'all, my 2 cents on Paris Hilton. Did you ever watch The Simple Life, Joe?
I watched the first season, and actually, maybe I'm going to take one quick sidestep just to contextualize. If people have forgotten what a fucking powerhouse she was back in 2005, this year alone, she starred in the infamous commercial for Carl's Jr.
Oh, yeah.
She completed the 3rd season of The Simple Life. She released her 2nd book, Your Heiress Diary, Confess It All to Me. She introduced a new perfume, Just Me, and she also hosted Saturday Night Live. She's a fucking working girl, ladies and gentlemen.
She really is. And honestly, The Simple Life, I think I've only seen the first season and maybe season and a half. That is some of the funniest TV show I've ever seen in my life. Like,
it was amazing. I loved it. So I feel like I watched it with my parents.
I did too, and we died.
It's hilarious.
But everyone, I want you to all know, this is a front. A facade that Paris Hilton puts on. She is a very, very smart woman. Now she's a very successful businesswoman. And yes, she's a Nepo baby. She's great-granddaughter of, like, the Hilton,
Who
like,
isn't
blah, blah, blah.
at this point? Move on, people.
Move on. But I will say this. So I watched this Netflix documentary, The American Meme. It was from 2019. And it's not really about Hilton. It's more so about viral stars. Like there's a Vine star. There's this the fat Jewish guy who was like, caught for stealing jokes. And it's all about how people can rise to fame on the internet. Sorry, the fat Jewish is his name. I'm not just saying that. But Paris Hilton's one of them. It's about their rise to fame and how Paris Hilton really created this influencer culture. Like it's because of her that this really exists. And it does kind of delve into the dark aspects of it and how lonely these people are. I think it's a very good documentary. It's not great because it doesn't delve far enough into the negative sides of it. But it does show Paris Hilton being real, which is something that I don't see often enough from her in interviews. But mostly because whenever I see her get interviewed, she's doing it to promote something. And when she is promoting something, she is on like a robot. But these documentaries where she can just be real, you see the real side of her, and you see her not come down on the marketing campaign for this movie, but you can see in her eyes and her reaction where she's like, ooh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, also the poster of the movie is basically her with cum coming off of her face.
Yeah, and we'll put a pin in that because I have more to say about how the film is deliberately playing on her sex tape.
But nevertheless, Hilton is smart. And even because I was really excited when the Scream Factory Blu-ray of this came out last year, and there were 2 new interviews, one with Robert Richard, yay, and one with Paris Hilton. And I was so excited because I was like, oh, good, like, are we going to get this really, like, is she going to just be candid and blah, blah, blah?
No.
Unfortunately, she is not. She is very much still in, I'm promoting the movie mode, even though it's been like 16, 17 years, but it's like, it goes to show she will do whatever it takes, what's best for her product. She is a marketing businesswoman. She knows this shit. And while I lament the fact that she will not be candid about this on this Blu-ray, I'm happy that she is candid about it in other places. You just have to seek them out.
Yeah, you got to dig for it because most of the time she's on brand, she's on message, she's a professional.
Yes. And one thing that documentary does a really good job of doing is there's a moment where it does talk about her sex tape, and she talks about how she didn't leave her room for like weeks and months because she was so embarrassed. And it really is upsetting to like watch her. Like she does start to cry. Oh. And they're not crocodile tears. But I don't know. I in the age of like the post Britney Spears stuff, I'm surprised we haven't had the same kind of reaction to Paris Hilton. I haven't seen her YouTube documentary, but I know that's mainly about her sexual assault that she endured when she was in, I want to say like middle school, like boarding school.
Yeah, I heard really good things about it. So if you are looking for that more candid approach, I think that's a good one to seek out as well.
Yeah. I just, people always talk about this movie and they always bring her up. And I'm like, y'all, like we are beyond this. And clearly she's like, done more in terms of like business and success than Britney Spears had. And Britney Spears does have a more tragic story with her conservatorship. But I do think that they belong in the same conversation.
I think that there's a number of people that we owe very public apologies to for the way that we treated them. And guess what? They're all female. They're all pop people, starlets, and so on. Like, I know that people have heard this rant before, but the way that society demonizes particularly sexually progressive women from the late 90s into, well, I'm not even going to say that it's ended, but it feels like we're maybe more cognizant that we do it. But yeah, there was, I think, an entire generation of young women that we just basically slut-shamed into really probably terrible mental health situations, if we're being honest.
Well, and that's like she was a very sheltered girl for the first 15 years of her life. Her parents didn't let her do anything. Again, they sent her in boarding school. It wasn't until 2001 when photographer David LaChapelle photographed her and her sister Nikki for a cover of Vanity Fair. But they were partially nude in it, and then she became, she's New York's it girl, she's the party girl, and then 2 years later we get A Simple Life.
There we go.
So, anyway, but that's my 2 cents on Hilton as a persona. We'll talk about the movie's treatment of her in a bit, but...
Okay.
So yeah, House of Wax released on May 5th, 2005, and opened in the number 2 slot with $12 million its opening weekend. The number 1 film was Kingdom of Heaven, which also opened that weekend, but I think it's kind of interesting that we have... in the first weekend of May 2005, like summer movie season, 2 R-rated films in the number 2 spots.
Right. One very clearly aimed at mature audiences, probably men. One aimed more at younger teens and just teens in general.
Yeah, basically. But unfortunately, it did drop to number 6 its second week, and it just kept falling. It did stay in the number 10 spot for 4 weeks. Ending its domestic run with a gross of $32 million, made $36.7 internationally for a worldwide total of $68.7 million. Again, against that production budget of $40 million. But
You mentioned home sales. Do you know how much it made there?
I do, Joe. It made $42 million in VHS and DVD sales.
Remember back in the day when it was like, oh, you could make a substantial amount of coin on physical.
Well, and I can't help because I remember, I mean, I was a junior, maybe a sophomore in high school when this came out. And it was people like, if you said you were going to see this movie, it was kind of people making fun of you because the only reason that you would want to go see this movie is for Paris Hilton to see her die. If you wanted to go see it just because, that was stupid and silly. I don't know.
You know, we talk about dark days of horror in the early 90s, but I also feel like this was the saturation point. Like, this is when we were in the thick of torture porn. This movie, I know that some people consider it part of that because it is particularly mean and cruel, but this was also starting that wave of remakes, right? So I think for a lot of people, this is a dark period for horror. So I'm kind of not surprised that people would flake on you if you said, I'm just interested in going to see a new horror film this weekend.
Oh, I guess that's true because Texas Chainsaw Massacre is 03, and then it takes about a year or two, and then like this year alone, we get like this, Amityville Horror. Right. There's something else that comes out this year, but I digress. Yeah, critics are not kind to this movie. On Rotten Tomatoes, we have an approval rating of 27% with an average rating of 4.4. I know!
I mean, folks, we're not going to pretend that this movie doesn't have its faults. We'll unpack it. But, I mean, yes, we understand that's also an aggregate, but like, that's a lot of rotten.
Yeah, I mean, average score is 4.4 out of 10, so you're looking at, like, C minus territory for this. This is a B plus for me, but I also love it in spite of its faults.
That is fair. I think that's probably the best way to go into this.
Yeah. We've got a 41 out of 100 on Metacritic. CinemaScore audiences gave it a C+, but Letterboxd users have at least given it a 5.8 out of 10. And I think that's where we're really starting to see, I mean, as you said, in the past 5, honestly, maybe even 10 years, because it's almost been 2 decades since this came out.
Oh my God, stop it.
People are rediscovering this movie or just discovering it for the first time and being like, oh shit, like this is it's not lean, unfortunately, but it is a mean, impeccably made slasher film. Absolutely.
Yeah, I will say some little part of me dies every time I see that 2-hour runtime.
You know, I will say at least, because I did check the time, the credits do roll at the hour 47 mark.
Oh, well, I feel better. Okay.
But we don't get, like, Jared Padalecki doesn't get his Achilles tendon slice until the 50-minute mark of this movie. So
it's late. Yeah, we are trying to do some character development stuff.
Which is hit or miss. But,
oh boy, yeah.
You know what? Let's go into it then. Let's talk about where this movie starts. But Joe,
okay,
did you watch the opening, the alternate opening for this film?
Sweet Jesus. I watched something. I watched a woman get thrown through a windshield. I don't know what else I was watching.
Yeah, everyone, to paint you a picture, and this reeks of the studio saying, hey, we need a kill earlier in this movie.
Absolutely does.
But it's just a female hitchhiker. She's on the side of the road. She sees Bo's truck. And then basically he drives up like full speed, somehow grabs her by the neck through his window and just tosses her into her own car's windshield. With the most hilariously bad female Wilhelm scream that I have to assume was going to be 80 yard at some point if they went through with this.
Yeah. It's just completely out of context. This isn't a character. There isn't anything to it. It's literally just, hey, can we kill a woman to open this movie?
Yeah, basically. I mean, her name is Jennifer, apparently, because I think the alternate opening is called Jennifer's Death, but I'm like, okay.
Okay, movie.
But I like the actual opening we get much better.
Yeah. I think it's actually a more classical way to open a horror film, which is that we start in the past and then we'll jump ahead to the present day. So yes, we open in 1974. We've got these unseen kids. So one is a very polite boy who's just sitting in his high chair in a kitchen. The other is a screaming disaster who is rightfully upset because he is being horrifically abused by his mother Trudy, who is played by Dravinian Delbert. And the important thing is that we don't see any faces in this sequence.
Man, and this is where to the film, I'm kind of like, why do we... This film really tries to do a lot with the twin thing, and I think it really brings
it doesn't work.
Down.
It's so obvious.
Well, and here's the thing. So the writers of this movie, Chad and Carrie Hayes, are twins.
Okay. Yeah, because the twinny shit is all over this.
I will say this, too, because I was like, well, what else have they written before? So they actually stuck onto the Dark Castle train. The next film would be The Reaping, the Hilary Swank biblical plague movie.
Ooh, I've heard bad things. I've never seen it, though.
They are... It's one of those ones where it's like, honestly, it is a C film. Like, it's just kind of boring, but like, it's not the travesty I think that all the reviews made it out to be. It's just, it's aggressively like, it's just there. It's very forgettable.
It's mediocre.
Yes. What is bad though, they actually, their next film is 2009's Whiteout, the Kate Beckinsale.
Oh no.
And that's a Dark Castle movie too.
Oh, secret Dark Castle movies.
Yes. It's based on a graphic novel. They are actually 2 of 4 screenwriters, and I think they were brought in after the fact to tinker with the script. Because
there were problems with that one.
Yeah, the problem with that movie is it is boring. It is so boring, and it's not shot well. So whenever there's the blizzard, which is most of the movie, you actually can't see what's going on.
I mean, that is an issue, right? Particularly if you're doing snowbound winter horror, we still need to be able to see what the fuck is going on.
But they hit a home run because they also wrote by themselves 2013's The Conjuring.
Oh, shit. Really? Okay. Plot twist.
But then so they also co-wrote The Conjuring 2, but it wasn't alone. They were 2 of 4 screenwriters on that one. But they also wrote, I want to say it was 2 years ago or maybe last year, The Turning, the Mackenzie Davis turning of the Screw movie.
Ooh, it also a bit of a tampered film. Like that, there were problems with that movie for sure.
So I find their career very fascinating, but it's definitely a roller coaster.
Honestly, I feel like I need to get my neck checked because I got like whiplash.
But yeah, anyway, back to the twin thing. So I feel like that's why they did it. So it's not only that we have the killer twins, but we also have, Alicia Cuthbert's Carly and Chad Michael Murray's Nick. And they're trying to do parallels there. It doesn't really work.
It just doesn't feel like it comes to anything.
It doesn't. And also the twist of like, oh, Bo was the one who was the wild child and Vincent was the calm. I don't really care. Like, does that really matter?
It's not the twist that the movie wants to think it is.
No, it is not. Like, you cut that out.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things where it's a swing and a miss in this movie. I almost admire it for trying, but it just never seems to quite connect.
Where it does succeed, though, I think, is in the score. People always talk about the soundtrack for this film because it's a lot of new metal.
Right, we're in that time period.
Very much so. But I actually think, so everyone, the score, here's our queer connection. John Ottman, director of Urban Legends Final Cut, very queer man. He did the score for this, and I love the smash cut to the title card after this mom smacks the fuck out of Bo.
Oof, yeah. Yeah, I have another queer connection that is maybe less, well, it's more inferred. This is going to be considered a reach for some folks, but we'll talk about it in a bit.
I buy into it, and when we get there, I'm excited to talk about it.
Yay! Gay shit. Okay. So let's cut to a diner in the present day. We see Paige, who is played by Paris Hilton, discussing Carly.
I love it, her first shot. Like, oh, let's show Paris Hilton eating fries and ketchup to show that she's a normal person.
She's a normal person. She eats, and she's not eating a salad. She's a fries girl.
Which apparently, though, that's actually not far from the truth. She very much does not like to work out, and she very much is a junk food eater.
Oh, okay. I mean, not the healthiest of lifestyles, but good for her.
It's a whole plot point on the movie life thing.
Oh my God. I love that you watched that because it was such a journey for me when I watched it a couple years ago.
I mean, the fact that I did start to feel the length by the end of it, but again, it's just like I was cringing for most of it, but it was a very interesting watch.
It's informative.
It's informative of 2005.
There we go. In case you've forgotten. Okay, yeah. So Paige and Carly are talking about Carly's In Style magazine internship in New York City.
Okay.
It's one of those things where I don't even think In Style magazine does a paper print anymore. So part of just the idea that you would go to New York City for probably an unpaid internship at a now foreclosed magazine. 2005.
Yeah. Also, unpaid internship in New York City. Good luck surviving.
Absolutely not. You are living in someone's closet and probably getting murdered. Yeah.
100%.
People in New York are like, how dare you?
No, they're like, yeah, that's true.
They're like, well, maybe not the murder, but definitely the closet. Yeah. So the issue is that Carly is dating Wade, who is Jared Padalecki, and he is apparently not interested in moving out of Gainesville. So this is where the relationship turmoil is coming from. She wants to move and experience new things. He's resistant to that because he's a bit more of a down home kind of guy.
Which I guess is the reason why his name is Wade.
Sure.
He's a homely country boy, Wade.
Very much so. I mean, he's wearing a lot of just kind of plaid-y shirts in this movie, and he looks like a Wade from Gainesville.
Fun fact, Jared Padalecki is an enormous man. He's very tall.
Oh, he's so tall. I could climb that tree.
Likewise. He is a foot taller than Alicia Cuthbert, so in the shots, whenever they were shot from the knees up, she actually strapped wooden blocks to her feet.
That is some orphan first killed nonsense, and I love it.
It really is. And so again, y'all watch the scenes where it's from the knees up, and then watch the scenes where it's wide shots of them just walking through the town, and you'll see the height difference.
Noticeably taller.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so also here to cause the drama is, yes, her felon twin brother Nick, who is played by Chad Michael Murray. Don't worry, folks, we will see him take his top off. Apparently a gay renaissance for a lot of folks.
Okay, so we have this drama between Nick and Wade, kind of.
Kind of.
He doesn't like Wade. We don't know why. But then, later, he's, talking to Dalton. He's like, oh, Wade's not that bad. And I'm like, why? What?
No, I think what it is that there's beef between Nick and Carly because she didn't stand up for him when he was accused of car theft, which is why he was sent away. We'll find this all out in a bunch of conversations that unfortunately happen at a point in the film where we don't fucking care anymore. So it's like, this drama, but it feels like Nick doesn't like Wade because he's just sort of fixating on his dislike for his sister and then shifting it onto her boyfriend. And
here's the thing, this is a 4-star movie for me. I really, really, really like this movie, but yeah, and I commend it. As I said, Jared Padalecki doesn't get attacked until 50 minutes in. So this movie does go through the effort to make character relationships, do character development, and it's really holding on and doing kind of a drama until we get to the slashing, and I do respect it for that.
Yep.
The problem is a lot of this doesn't really ring very true. It's a lot of shortcuts for clunky exposition.
That bad dialogue you were talking about.
Yeah, and I mean and honestly, I think the fact that we do split these characters up hurts the film in the long run.
It does. It makes it feel very slow for a lot of this first act and maybe even into the second.
Well, and I will say, and I'm not going to just y'all, obviously I love Paris Hilton and I'm biased, but I actually think that the most compelling personal relationship in this film is the one between Carly and Paige.
Absolutely. The funny thing is if you watch that MTV series, it seems like they didn't have a lot of time to foster an off-screen relationship. So the fact that you fully buy into their friendship on screen, I think is a testament to both actresses.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Hilton, she's not the best actress in the world, but she's does fine. Exactly what is asked of her for this admittedly underwritten role. But it's those scenes before Carly falls into the animal pit where I'm just I would have loved to have seen more scenes between these two because I just like watching their friendship. These other characters, on the other hand, meh.
Well, let's introduce some of the other ones. So Paige's arc is that she may be secretly pregnant with Blake, who is Robert Richard. She may be pregnant with his baby, and she can't find a time to talk to him about that. And part of me is like, well, maybe don't strip tease, have the conversation.
One thing I thought that was really interesting about this. So historically, because we're in Louisiana here, in southern states, it's very much it's a big deal if you bring a black boy home. You can't be a white girl and bring a black boy home. But
it's the switch, right? It's oh, she's a white girl. He can't bring her home.
That's the thing, yeah, because Carly says his parents won't let him marry you. And I'm like, why?
Never explained, but we have to infer.
Yeah, we have to infer. But I thought that was a very interesting line of dialogue.
And then, of course, there's another character that we haven't talked about because I literally forget that John Abrahams is in this movie. We have pervy Dalton, who seems to not really fit into the group. I have thoughts.
Yeah, everyone, John Abrahams, of course, from Scary Movie and the director of Exploited, which we covered last year. Wait.
Yeah, and folks would have heard that on the main feed just maybe this week.
Yeah, good timing, by the way.
Yeah, we planned that in advance for sure. I mean, Dalton's main claim to fame in this movie is that he's an amateur videographer, so he's the guy with the camcorder, and this is why we see things like nearly sex tape-ish footage of him sneaking up on Blake and Paige making out outside the diner.
So, okay. I'm glad. I'm ashamed that I didn't even catch this because I was like, oh, I guess they're trying to do some faux found footage type thing. Your explanation makes a lot more sense. Although I will say, in an interview, Paris Hilton was asked if that stuff was a nod to her sex tape, and she claims that the scene was already in the script. But
right, but they probably knew who they were aiming to cast, and they wrote it in anticipation of.
That is my thought too, because apparently Hilton was the first person cast in this film, which means yes, we are. It's that thing where it's like this marketing synergy, right? So we're thinking with Paris Hilton first and working around that again instead of thinking with the film first.
100%. Yeah. So, folks, there's basically two incidents within this plot. So there's this moment where we see the pair of them making out, and it's through the camcorder footage that Dalton is shooting. And then there's another sequence where it looks like she is giving Blake roadhead, and we're filming that and seeing it in the camcorder footage as well. And it doesn't look exactly like One Night in Paris, which is the title of the sex tape.
Yeah.
But that comes out 1 year before, is partially responsible for exploding her stardom. And then, as you mentioned, literally the marketing, the poster of this is Paris Hilton's face dripping with what looks like semen.
And yeah. And I will say, in that American Meme documentary, she says, like, when that sex tape came out, she was like, it felt like I had been raped. And
ooh, Jesus.
Y'all, don't release someone's sex tape. That's horrible. I've never watched a celebrity sex tape. I'm not saying that to brag. I've never had the interest, really.
Honestly, the only time I ever am briefly tempted is if they have publicly said that they are either okay with it, or if I just want to look at a still of a dick.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Like if I want to see Colin Farrell's penis. Sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking, oh god, who's the? Oh my god, I can't remember the guy's name, but the one who like slaps his dick in his hands constantly. He's got this monster cock, and he just slaps it. It's Tyler Posey.
Oh god, problematic figure, Tyler Posey. Yeah.
Yes, but literally, if you like look up his dick videos, he just like constantly slaps his dick in his hands, and I'm like, okay, dude.
I mean, I guess if you got it, flaunt it. Sure.
But yeah, this is all again in 2022. All of this feels very icky.
Oh, yeah. It feels very invasive. And also, well, this is how we're suckering people into coming to watch our movie. So I guess we have to deliver on the thing that they think they want.
Well, and so on a level, then, I'm glad that this marketing campaign proved to be fruitless for them.
Right. Yeah. It's sad because it means that the movie is considered a box office flop, but also fucking shame on you.
Yeah, very much so. But Paris Hilton, real trooper, good for you for just sticking with this and keeping your persona up.
And as you said, I actually think she kind of comes out of this film as one of its bright spots in terms of the acting. Literally,
when this film ends, I'm always like, I wish I had more Paige in this movie.
Right? Yeah. Give us our girl Paige. Honestly, give me a spinoff with Paige, and then Paige from Valentine, played by Denise Richards.
Oh my god. Because here's the thing, too. Like, again, Paris Hilton, serviceable actress. I don't really think anyone in this movie is particularly, like, strong.
No, it's not a great acting movie.
I mean, Cuthbert does the best because she has the most to work with.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of that, it's kind of like, it's as you said, it's not an actor's movie.
All right, so this group is carpooling in two different vehicles. They're on their way to unnamed football game, which doesn't matter. We just need to know that they're on a road trip and they will be camping. So they hop into their two cars. They end up having to take a road detour because we will later learn that the roadkill driver has been ferreting people into this town that is off the map so that we can kill them and turn them into wax figurines. But at this moment, all we know is, oops, we have to take a detour off the highway.
I always think about that bit in the Simpsons movie whenever they put the dome over Springfield and Tom Hanks is, someone's like driving with their GPS by Springfield and it's like, and up on your right, nothing.
Correct. Don't look. Just keep driving. Okay, so they realize that because of this detour, they're not going to get to where they need to be. They're starting to get tired. They know that they need to... Who could care? All of this stuff is nonsense. They just need to get off the road, so they go camping. And it just happens to be after they have driven by a giant billboard that mentions Trudy's Wax Museum.
Yeah, so we basically just get like kind of, not a supercut, but just like a montage of them horsing around. We get that line that you started. I'm happy we don't get the F slur in this movie, but I was
nearly.
I was worried for a second that we were about to get it with those Elton John sunglasses.
Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting things here. So it's very clear that Dalton has a crush of some kind on Carly, which is why he allows her to dress him up. But it's also very clear that, like, Nick just doesn't fit in with this group, even though he clearly has some kind of relationship to both Dalton and Blake. Like, it's revealed that Blake is the one who got him out on bail, which is what allowed him to come to this trip, but he seems far more chummy with Dalton.
Very much so. And chummy, we can put in quotes because we think there's more to that.
We certainly do. There's 2 different instances where I will venture into a queer reading.
Let's go. But continue.
Yeah, so we're horsing around, we're setting up camp, we're having fun, and then all of a sudden, Trace, there's a stiff breeze. And it smells terrible. But put a pin in that because we're just going to party it off.
Yeah, we're like, okay, whatever. Big smell. Party, y'all.
So the partying is interrupted by the ominous truck lights that appear on the ridge. And this person doesn't make any effort to come out and speak to them. So Nick does the thing that all movie badasses do. He smashes a headlight with a beer bottle. And we all laugh it off. This will not come back into play.
It kind of, well, the headlight
It totally
does.
comes back into play.
Okay.
Don't break a fucking headlight of a car you don't know.
I couldn't detect sarcasm. I was like, Joe, did you not watch the movie?
Yes, it's the second week in a row I have not watched the movie.
Anyway, yes, put that in your back pocket.
So we get a bit of this night vision camcorder footage through the campsite, and we think it could be Dalton. Spoiler, it's not Dalton.
Yeah, again, this is kind of padding. I guess it's because we're like, we need to show that there is a threat, even though it's like, well, y'all, we're in the movie. Like, we know that something's going to happen eventually, but this is padding that could be cut from the beginning of this movie.
Well, it's weird to me. I mean, there's better confirmation of it later, but I will confess that I often forget that this movie is an example of rural horror. Like, it's city folk going out into the country, encountering people who fuck them up because they don't know how to deal with their surroundings.
Well, and when we get to the Lester character, like, he's very much like, he could have walked out of Wrong Turn and I would have not batted an eye.
Is that the roadkill driver guy?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I looked him up and it was like, does he not have a name?
I think it's Lester. Oh my god, did I just make that up?
Lester the Molester? Is that why?
Chester the Molester. Hold on, wait. Let me, Young Bo Vincent Wax. Oh my god, yeah, I don't even think he's credited in the IMDb.
He's not, he's roadkill driver.
Okay, well, I'm gonna call him Lester.
Okay, Lester it is. So we break camp in midday. They've slept rather late, which, P.S., if you have ever gone camping, you know that this is not a thing. The minute that the sun starts to strike a tent wall, you are roasting. It is basically like being the lobster in the pot.
Oh, yeah, I felt hot looking at the grass in this scene.
Well, here's the thing. I'm surprised people don't look Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake levels of sweaty in this movie, because it must have been so fucking hot filming in Australia.
That's the thing. And again, like, when you have your cast of pretty actors, we don't want to ugly them up too much. And that is where I will commend that Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, because those people do look like shit, despite being very pretty.
So fucking sweaty.
Yeah.
But I mean, a Texas summer. Yes.
Yeah, and this is Louisiana, and they're heading to a football game, which, by the way, they don't even have tickets for yet.
No, I love that they're like, we got to get in line early so we can scalp tickets.
I'm like, okay. Like, whatever.
risky move. So we're preparing to leave. This is when Wade discovers that his fan belt has been tampered with, and also Dalton's camcorder is missing. And perhaps more alarmingly, Carly falls into this giant pit of roadkill that may or may not contain a human arm.
Also, okay, so this is where Paige really shines here, right? Because Carly's like, let's go look. And Paige is like, yeah, let's go follow the smell. Well, I want to see what it is. Why?
A little bit. I will say, so Brian did not watch this with me. He was distinctly uninterested in being my viewing companion, but he did walk through the scene when Alicia Cuthbert falls and sticks her arm in the goo.
Ooh, yeah.
And I think that was enough for him to peace out, because that scene is so effectively disgusting.
Well, and also, and first really good use of an overhead shot in this movie. The shot, like the tableau almost of just, it's like her filling the top part of the frame as just this pit of animal carcasses.
Massive. It is so much bigger. Every time I see this movie, which is probably about 4 times now.
Yeah.
I'm constantly surprised because you think it's, oh, she's fallen into an animal. Oh no, there's probably 200 corpses here.
One thing the effects department does really well in this movie is the sinew that's on Gore. So like when she pulls her arm out, it's like you see like it's like sticking to her.
Yeah, it's super goopy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, goopy. There you go.
Okay, so Lester, aka Roadkill Driver, played by Damon Harriman, arrives. He's actually introduced dumping more roadkill into this pit, and he's immediately coded as creepy.
Yeah.
Like we shouldn't trust him. There's something a little wrong with him.
It's kind of funny. I mean, also, that twist with him being the third brother, I'm like, who gives a fuck?
Oh my God, who could care?
Why? But, you know, he looks dirty. He's got the accent, his teeth. I mean, it's not the best portrayal of a Louisiana native.
No. This is very firmly where the rural horror kicks in, right? It's, oh gosh, if you're a city folk, you could fall into a pile of roadkill and have to deal with this bucktooth idiot. And you're just like, come on. Like, there's lots of great people who live in these states.
Well, and here's the thing, too. So we're like, oh, it's their brother. Bo looks fine. And Vincent, with the exception of his mask face, like, also looks fine. So what is this guy doing?
Yeah, this is very much the brother that nobody apparently cared about because he's a bit of a local yokel.
Maybe he was like in a cage in the basement during that opening scene.
I mean, maybe. So all this to say, Lester ends up offering them a ride because, of course, we can't drive with the broken fan belt. So Wade and Carly end up hitching a ride with him, and the others will continue on. They will get tickets and meet back up with them later.
And this is
where we split up.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. Paige and Carly will never interact again, except on the phone.
Oh, that's wild. I hadn't even thought about that.
And that's a problem. I mean, I know why we do this, because we have to get Wade and Carly away so Wade can get killed.
Sure.
It just does suck, because it does then make like the Paige and Blake stuff feel very superfluous to everything else that is going on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Particularly when we have that extended scene between them, you're just like, oh, just kill them already, because we know that's what we're doing.
They don't even make it to the town. They stay at the campsite the entire time.
It's wild. Yeah. Okay, so this is where we get the notable scene of Nick taking off his tank top so that he can give it to Carly. So we do get some abs. Chad Michael Murray looking great.
Sure.
I'm clearly not a fan favorite for you.
Even before this horrendous documentary appearance from him, like I've never disliked him, but I've never he's never been like that, because maybe because the first time I saw him was on Gilmore Girls, because he played a douchebag on that show.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched Gilmore Girls, so I don't know about the character arcs. Obviously, Jared Padalecki comes out of that show better than most of the other dudes.
Oh, yeah. He was only in the first season, I think, but he played like a bully at the school that Rory went to, and he constantly made fun of Dean. Jared Padalecki, sorry.
Right. Okay.
So, actually, it did play well.
Tell me the character names of a show I just said I don't watch. Sure.
I'm like, it's Dean. Don't you know Dean?
I'm like, Supernatural? No, that's the other brother.
Well, that's confusing.
Welcome back to our Gilmore Girl podcast.
I know, but I didn't know this, but apparently Paris Hilton did guest on Supernatural in an episode that was about a wax museum.
Oh, wild. Okay. Yeah. I remember she did a Veronica Mars guest spot, and that was the only other time I'd seen her outside of this film in The Simple Life.
Oh, yeah. And again, she's kind of, I haven't seen the Supernatural episode, but in Veronica Mars, she's very much playing on her, like she's like the rich bitch, at the school.
She is. Yeah. It's stunt casting because we were trying to goose Veronica Mars's ratings because that show was not doing well.
No, it was not. But,
sad.
Hey, we got 4 seasons in a movie.
There we go. It's a little hard to complain, all things considered. But dear God, I love that show.
I do too.
Okay, so we're on the road with Lester, and he's making very obvious overtures about looking at Carly's body in this tank top. It's kind of funny. I was like, does Carly have a magical vagina? Because every dude wants to fuck her in this movie. including her brother.
It's just Alicia. Oh, man.
The chemistry between her and the brother is weird. She has better chemistry with Chad Michael Murray than she does with Jared Padalecki.
Yeah, it is a little weird. I just don't give a shit about this twin stuff at all.
Oh, God, no. No. Which is funny because usually when you're doing twin shit in a movie, that is the focus, and I am here for it. Like, think of all the twin drama shit we have seen in other horror films.
Well, but that's the thing, right? Like, it does seem to be the focus of this film, but at the same time, they don't spend that much time on it.
No. Okay, so the others are getting caught in traffic, and they end up ultimately deciding to turn around. But we're basically following Wade and Carly as they decide that Lester is too creepy, so they get out of the truck and they end up walking into the sleepy town of Ambrose.
One of my favorite line deliveries from Alicia Cuthbert. I don't care, that guy was a freak.
Okay, girl, just spill it. Spill that tea, get it out on the table.
I'm like, he's right behind you. Like, you might want to be a little quiet about it.
Oh, they do not care about how they come off here. I mean, admittedly, Lester is pulling out a very creepy-looking knife. We discover that we can't open the door or roll down the window on one side of the truck. Mm-hmm. It's red flag central, but also, folks, it's stage whisper until you are at least 5 feet away from the person you think might kill you.
Stage whisper.
He's a freak.
I don't care, that guy was a freak.
Okay, so they head to the gas station, but they can't find anyone, so they go to the church, and this is where they draw the ire of Beau, who is played by Cougar Town's Brian Van Holt.
Oh my god. Okay. Someone commented on one of my tweets about this and was like, well, I mean, like, Dark Castle really lowered their standards for this one. They at least got, they got Jeffrey Rush to be Vincent Price in House on Haunted Hill, and then they get Bobby from Cougar Town. And I was like, go fuck yourself.
How dare you? Penny can forever.
And this is pre-Cougar Town too, but it's always really funny because everyone, if you've not seen Cougar Town, I mean, we've talked about it plenty of times, but he is the lovable doofus on that show.
He's so perfect in that role.
And so to watch this where he's
kind of sexy and kind of threatening, like he's doing it for me.
Very much so. And he does play Vincent in those scenes.
He does. Yep. I will say strong Gabriel from Malignant vibes in this Vincent costuming and hair. Hey?
Yes. I didn't even think about that. You're right.
I mean, obviously, that would be Malignant aping on this.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't think it's intentional. It was just more, we've been doing this long hair, blurry face nonsense for quite some time.
I'm just imagining Akilah Cooper writing Malignant, like she's watching House of Wax while she's writing the script for Malignant, and she's like, light bulb.
Oh, twin shit, eh? Let me one up ya.
Oh shit, yeah.
Trace.
It's sorry, y'all. We're recording on a Saturday morning, which is not when we normally record.
This is true. We are off our game, but goddamn, we are having a good time. Okay, so they wait for Beau because he's like, let me meet you at the store and I will get you that fan belt. And in the meantime, they say, okay, well, why don't we kill some time, go to Trudy's famous wax museum? And these scenes are also intercut with our introduction to who will eventually be revealed as Vincent. And it's a little gross. It's basically a lot of close-ups of
a wax tit.
Making a wax tit. Yeah. So Carly and Wade explore this lobby. They discover that it is entirely made of wax by an artist named Vincent. The name is on every item in there. And then Carly thinks that she sees someone, so Wade investigates and he leaves her inside to basically just have a panic attack and freak out.
So this line delivery of Jared Padalecki where he's like, it is wax. Like, literally. People made fun of that a lot. What do we think of the concept of a literal house of wax?
I think it is a very fun movie conceit, and it is so impractical in reality. Mm-hmm. I just have to kind of guffaw.
I'm like, did they just like helicopter in a big block of wax and then Trudy just went to town and started carving this shit? And it's like the exterior wall is textured. I'm like, this must have taken a century to build.
Right. And we're basically told later on, like right near the end of the film, the explanation for why no one interceded and stopped the action of these twins is because the town fell off the map when the sugar mill factory closed, which is where Paris Hilton presumably is killed.
Right.
And they basically just ended up losing track of everything that was happening. Motherfuckers, you didn't notice a giant 2-story house made of wax?
Well, and I mean, I don't know necessarily the science behind wax melting. However, we're in Louisiana.
Right.
And the
Do you think it gets hot enough to melt a little bit of wax?
Maybe. I have no idea. And here's the thing. I have seen many people be like, this takes me right out of the movie. And this is where, again, I will throw in, y'all, this is a dumb 80s slasher. You've got to suspend that disbelief.
Yeah, no, it doesn't take me out at all because part of me thinks, how amazing would it be to wander through a house and discover everything is made of wax? Like,
yeah,
what an interesting / magical / potentially dangerous situation.
And without this, we wouldn't have the awesome 20-minute fiery finale. Oh. The thing that takes me out of this movie the most is the dog that is for some reason pretending to be a wax figure.
What did Vincent say? Okay, stay. And I'll come back and collect you in a little bit.
Yeah, that's less real to me than a big house of literal wax.
This feels like a weird, cheap jump scare because, hey, it's been a while since we've done anything remotely scary.
Yeah, and it was in every trailer for the movie, too.
Why?
Yeah. But I do love that shot of Vincent in the window, and he's like, boop, just runs away.
Ooh, I've been spotted.
I don't care, that guy was a freak.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so let's cut back to Dalton and Nick. We're basically stopped because I don't know what we're even doing at this point. But this is the first of 2 scenes that I think suggest that there is something more than friendship between Dalton and Nick, because these 2 boys are crossing streams of urine.
Yeah, it is, I mean, look, yes, okay, all your straight bros out there, they're gonna be like, they're just friends, guys. It's like, no, but there's a hint of it here, and it
escalates later.
Yeah, Nick is pansexual, maybe a bit incestuous, so he loves his sister. He might even love Wade the way he bullies him, and he's in love with Dalton. He wants everyone in this movie, except for Blake and Paige.
Yeah, because they're off the market because they're maybe pregnant and having a baby later.
Oh, God. Also, a plot point that comes to nothing.
Yeah, nothing at all. No, so, so Dalton and Nick are just very casually peeing out in the open about a foot away from each other, and this is when Blake says, hey, I need you 2 to fuck off and give me time so I can fuck my girlfriend.
Yes. Also, I'm sorry, really quick rewind to Wade and Carly. So whenever she sees Vincent, she's like, it wasn't a wax thing, it was moving and it was freaky looking, to which Wade replies, well, let's go check it out.
That's my number 1 response. Something is weird and freaky looking. Well, actually, you know what? As horror people, that probably would be our first response. But as characters who are in a weird circumstance, maybe take a step back.
It just shows that they're meant for each other. Carly wants to go check out the weird smell. Wade wants to go check out the weird person in the window.
There we go. Doomed lovers fit for each other. Okay, so in the gas station, Carly unpacks basically her relationship baggage with Nick.
Yeah.
So she tells Wade that basically he was deemed the evil twin by their parents, and as a result, he grew up to live up to their expectations in that description. So yeah, he's gotten into trouble all of his life. He never takes responsibility. He went to jail because he stole a car.
I needed a bigger thing from this because, yeah, her thing is like, oh, he started getting in trouble, so they always compared the 2 of us, and he didn't like that. And I was like, that's not really enough of a thing for me to buy this. I mean, I guess if we had seen it, but I don't know. It feels like it might be something from these writers' lives.
Well, or even this idea that twins are so often compared, like even fraternal twins, which is what we're talking about.
Right.
It seemed almost like, I don't know, like a thing that twins have to contend with, which is that because they're the same age, so closely related to one another, that they're constantly pitted against each other, and one comes out good and one comes out evil or worse or something like that. Like, so my husband, Brian, is a fraternal twin, and it's interesting because people would constantly apparently ask him if they had twin powers, if they were dressed the same, and all this kind of stuff. And so it is a thing that people have to go through, but the movie seems to make it out to be one of those things where if they are nurtured in a particular way, one of these kids could absolutely grow up and be evil.
Yeah, I get it. It's so... it's not superfluous, but it's so paper thin that I'm just kind of like...
It's facile.
And again, it's like, I appreciate the effort, but I also... I'm critiquing the lack of effort at the same time.
You admire the fact that they took the time to put it in there, but then you lament the fact that they didn't actually execute it well.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so they are interrupted by Beau, who insists that he has the correct fan belt back up at the house, and then he gives them this overview about Trudy and how she kind of lost her mind, and Dr. Sinclair moved them to this small town, and then she got obsessed with making this house of wax. So this is the exposition as we're moving up to the house, which is not at all giving me Psycho vibes.
Oh my god, right? Oh, I love that.
So we get there, and Wade asks if he can use the bathroom, so Carly goes and sits in the car. She sends Nick the coordinates, which becomes important because she's about to lose her cell phone. And then we cut to Nick and Dalton driving in the car because he gets the coordinates, but this is confirmation where we learned that, Nick actually isn't bad. It was Dalton who stole the car, and Nick took the fall for him. And I do want to highlight that this is the second scene, I think the more obvious one, that there is more going on here.
Yeah. Well,
so
because...
I know there's a third scene, obviously.
Oh, yeah. The third scene is the big one. But, yeah, it's very much because he's like, thank you for taking the heat. Oh, it's okay. I mean, again, I already have, like, a big track record. Like, what's one more thing on the docket?
Car theft? That's a bit of a big one.
Right? He did it for love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know too many friends who would... The problem, too, is that Dalton is not a character. Like, barely any of these people are characters, but Dalton particularly doesn't have anything to connect him to any of these others. He's the character where you wonder, why is he even friends with these folks? Because they don't seem to have anything in common. So this feels like that flimsy attempt to say, Nick and Dalton are really good friends. But then for our perspective as queer viewers, it's like, this is a weird friendship. Why are we doing this exactly?
Well, because he's supposed to be like the prankster of the group, right? And
Sure.
And I think that's where on this rewatch I was the most frustrated because again, like, yeah, we have this slow start and we have so much screen time devoted to like character stuff, but they're not utilizing it very well. Like, I feel like they're focusing on all the wrong things.
Yeah, it's a problem. Mm-hmm. Particularly when this movie is nearly 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we cross-cut between Carly discovering that Beau is actually the person who was driving the truck with the broken headlight, and Wade investigating Dr. Sinclair's old office. So he's finding medical files and weird equipment. It's very House on Haunted Hill.
The score starts kicking in as soon as these scissors come out of the trapdoor on the floor. And
oh, for sure. Then the lights go out, and the Achilles go down.
Ooh, and the Foley work on this Achilles tendon is...
it's real good.
I think we said this at the beginning, but this is a mean movie. This movie does hurt its protagonist. And man, Jared Padalecki...
he gets the brunt of it.
He really gets the brunt of it. Oof, 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 oof. This is rough.
Yeah, so Achilles first, he goes down. I do love the fact that this is shot in a different way, so you can tell that he can barely see. The light here is for our benefit, but it's very clearly filmed in a darker fashion than a lot of the other scenes.
Yeah, you know what I was getting vibes of was Silence of the Lambs, just without the night vision.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So he gets stabbed a bunch of times, and then he's eventually knocked out.
And so Carly's freaking out, and she locks herself in the car.
Right.
And Beau... So what I love, though, so Beau is like, I'm sure, like, blah, 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 and he smashes the window, grabs her by the leg, and tries to pull her out while going, I'm just trying to help you.
Yeah. Beau, baby. You have clearly not dealt with a person who is conscious in quite some time, because this is not normal behavior.
Yeah. And so we get, like, I think the big chase scene everyone remembers from this movie is Paris Hilton's chase scene, because Carly's doesn't really exactly feel so much like a chase scene because we're stopping a few times as she discovers the town. But you could consider her interactions with Beau here for the next 5-ish minutes like an extended chase scene.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, so she manages to leave Blake a voicemail while this is all happening, and then she tries to drive away. She inadvertently drives the truck kind of off of a ledge so that one of the wheels is like out hanging in open space.
Yeah.
We're cross-cutting between Wade getting injected with a paralytic. He gets fully stripped naked, sat in a chair, and then covered with scalding hot wax. And she, meanwhile, is in the church investigating all of these bodies and realizing, holy shit, these are people who have been coated in wax because she breaks off somebody's arm. And it's very clearly, oh, there's muscle and tissue and bone.
The Wade stuff. So and it's not even just him getting covered in hot wax. He gets all the hair on his face waxed off too.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I forgot that they do the eyebrow.
Oh, God. And like all of his facial hair.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. But again, so this Carly thing. So she's hiding under the robe of the wax priest.
Mm-hmm.
And Bo finds her and she runs out of this church.
Mm-hmm.
There is a fantastic shot as she leaves this church, and it's all overhead, but the camera is also in motion, almost like tilting.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Bo catch up to her from an overhead shot. And again, a normal scene we would have just seen, like we would have like facing Carly as we see Bo catch up to her. But there's something about that overhead shot that is just unique and very effective.
Yeah, something to be said for overhead shots. I feel like nowadays we're a bit jaded because we get a lot of these when
drones.
We see, it's a lot of drone shots of cars driving into the forest and then 360 flip. You know, it's the Midsommar kind of thing. Those are fine. Like they look good. I love a good drone shot. There's something to be said when it's people. Like this made me think of that scene when the vampires are attacking in 30 Days at Night. So we're just kind of tracking down the street. There's something about having figures in it and making that space so wide and expansive, but we're seeing horrific acts of violence. And it's, I don't know, just really exciting and interesting visually.
Well, because I think, again, if we have it where we're, you know, just facing Carly, it's a bit more claustrophobic. We don't have a full, like, scale of, like the scope of all this.
Right.
Overhead, it's like, oh, hey, she's running. There is no place for her to hide. This is just open land.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea that we're making a street a place of danger.
Yes. And it is that openness that makes it so scary, even though we are in the middle of a town.
Yeah, well, and we think that maybe she could be helped by somebody else in this town. We don't know yet.
Yeah, well, unless you saw the trailer, because they do reveal that woman in the window is absolutely a fake person.
Yeah, oh boy, marketing. So Bo ends up, grabbing Carly. He throws her into a medical chair and ties her down using the exact same techniques as we saw Trudy using in the cold open.
So I feel like this also gets mentioned a lot when people discuss this movie because as a final girl, Carly does get, like, put through the ringer.
Yes, absolutely. It starts here. He super glues her lips together. It should be noted that Bo is very clearly sexually assaulting the women that he abducts because he has a wall of Polaroids of women.
Yes, and this is all, by the way, and I would never have guessed this, but Marilyn Manson's Dried Up, Tied, and Dead to the World is playing over this scene. There's something very creepy and sexual when he blows on her lips to dry the super glue.
100%. Yes, it's incredibly intimate. It's very confrontational. It's very creepy.
Also, you don't need to blow on super glue. It dries.
No, it'll dry on its own. It's like, don't wag a Polaroid. It'll develop on its own.
But luckily, we have a pseudo Deus Ex Machina as Nick comes into town.
Yeah, so Nick and Dalton have arrived because at this point they had her coordinates. They have had to abandon the truck because of that creek thing that we encountered with Lester earlier. But they arrived just in time. So Nick sends Dalton up to the house because they can't find any signs of Wade or Carly. And then he discovers Bo at the gas station because he knows that's where they were going to get the fan belt. And he starts to question him. And I think this is the moment of the film. There's a lot of mean moments in this movie. This is the one that always stands out to me because Bo clips the top of Carly's finger so covertly and is so proud of himself.
Oh, yeah. It's just wire cutters, too. And it's like, this fingertip just snips off. And then we get that close-up of her holding it as, like, blood is spewing
just
out of this
gushing
wound.
out of here. And, of course, Nick is none the wiser.
Yeah. It's, this is, I mean, look, final girls do get put through the ringers in movies. I mean, I think Sally from Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a pretty good example of that.
Yeah.
But this is, like, you just don't see this very often. You didn't see this very often in that kind of post-Scream era of slashers.
I think more often than not, we were doing this when we were torturing people and then we were murdering them. It wasn't often our final girl, right? Like, this to me feels akin to what we were seeing in Hostel with some of those torture sequences. It is mean. It is vicious. The only difference is that we're doing it to Carly, and she survives.
And this comes out about 7 months after Saw premiered back in 2004, but about 4 months before Hostel would premiere at TIFF later in 2005.
That's wild. So she ends up prying open her mouth in time to save Nick before he gets stabbed by Beau. We have a little bit of a skirmish here, and then Nick manages to lock himself inside the gas station, and then Beau disappears. We don't see where he goes.
This, her pulling her lips apart, I think hurt me more than the fingertip.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. The fingertip is like, oh, shit, I can't believe we just did that. This part is the, oh, God, no.
Like, and unfortunately, like, I mean, granted, I've never super glued my lips together. I've never seen someone do this, but I feel like that would hurt so much that it would really impede on your ability to do anything for the rest of this movie.
She'd be in so much pain. We see her. I joked to you that basically she rips this open. Her mouth is very clearly bloody. And then it just kind of, throughout the rest of the film, transitions into a kind of red lipstick look where it's like, oh, yes, look at how beautiful her ruby red lips are.
It looks fine where we don't have a close-up on her face, but I noticed it especially in the movie theater scene where she's sitting in the seat and you're like, oh, it just looks like she smeared lipstick across her face.
Yeah. Oh, it made her so fashionable that pulling her lips apart from super glue.
But yeah, I mean, this whole, I won't call it a set piece, but this whole sequence is really, really brutal.
Yeah, this is really where the movie is now picking up on the action, right? You know, yes. Wade's attack is quick and very alarming, but we're also cross-cutting between it. Here, it's condensed, but we're not moving away from it. So it all happens in one chunk, and it's great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So speaking of Wade, we do cut over to Dalton entering the house, and he finds Wade sitting very passively at the piano. So he realizes, oh, this is my friend. Why isn't he reacting? There's something on him. So Trace, what does he do? Okay,
I'm sorry. Not only, before he even starts to peel it off, he goes, "I'm going to get you out of this, man." And I'm like, "What?" Granted, it doesn't make a lot of sense that his skin comes off with the wax because I don't think that's how that works. But
no,
who cares? He starts peeling this wax off of Padalecki's cheek, and it peels his skin off. We see, I mean, a close-up shot of just his exposed muscle, I guess.
Yeah,
whatever. But then we also get this really good shot where Vincent is like in the foreground and we see Dalton and Wade in the background, and then Vincent turns around, has a big old knife and just slashes it down, cutting off the side of Padalecki's cheek, exposing his entire jaw.
Yeah, I will say one of the other moments that really gets me is when Dalton is picking away. He keeps picking even though you can clearly see you are picking away his skin and flesh. And we get these close-ups of Wade's face.
Crying.
He's crying, and the eyes are darting back and forth because obviously he can't speak. It is so fucking upsetting.
Yeah, and once his face gets sliced off, his eyes like roll into the back of his head.
Because he goes into shock, I imagine.
Oh, I mean, look, again, suspension of disbelief that he would even be alive for this.
I think he'd just be burnt to death under the hot wax.
That's what I was thinking too. Or, I don't know, maybe, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a really cool set piece.
Oh, it's fantastic. Like, it's gory as hell, very upsetting, as I said. This is the kind of thing where I go, oh, we're playing on a different field than we have been playing on with some of these other sort of slashery films of this ilk. This is meaner. This is harder.
And again, once his face gets sliced off, again, like it's a quick shot, but like you see the goo that holds the skin to his face together as it just like stretches as his face skin falls off. It is something. It is something to behold.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Dalton doesn't last much longer. He basically ends up finding a doorway. He falls down it, and then he gets brutally decapitated by Vincent.
So what I love, it's not just, we're going to slice your head off. He does like his two knives in a scissor motion, but he then grabs his legs and pulls his torso away. And you hear the neck, the head like separate from the body. And then to top it all off, we get a close-up shot of his head tilt to the side as his eyes are still blinking. Oh,
classic.
So good.
Pour one out for Dalton.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had enough violence. Let's move back into the sex portion of the film. We see Paige performing a striptease, and she and Blake are about to get it on. But the problem is she gets basically down to this lingerie, and then Blake is obviously interested in having sex, and she goes, "Ooh, I just really want to have a conversation."
Yeah. Again, this whole scene, I'm like... It's only here because you know that every teenage boy that did go see this in theaters thought he was going to see Paris Hilton naked. And
oh my god!
While I don't like that we have to have this for Paris Hilton, I do appreciate that it's a big old cock tease.
Oh sure. I mean, she looks great. It is what it is, and thankfully it doesn't go on too long. So the music gets shut off, and Blake goes to investigate. He starts to play Carly's message, but then we cut back to Paris Hilton, kind of waiting in the tent. When he doesn't return, I love that she just throws on some pajamas and goes to bed.
Oh yeah, she was like, "All right, bye, buddy."
Fine, fuck you. Okay.
She wants. We also don't ever learn if she actually is pregnant in this movie, and I think maybe that's intentional because if she actually was, if the movie confirmed that she was, I wonder if people would be like, "Oh, that's too mean because we're killing a pregnant woman." Yeah, so it has to be up in the air.
Yeah. But also then, why are we bothering?
That's the thing. Like, we're adding... It's such manufactured drama that comes to nothing, so why is it even in this movie?
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like the only thing it really does is confirm to us that Carly is a good friend that Paige feels comfortable confiding in more than her boyfriend.
Yeah, I almost wish it was just something else, right? That would have some kind of resolution. Or let him know about it so he has a reaction to it and then have him die.
I guess. I don't know if there's a way to rescue this. It very much feels like if you've got women in horror films, there are certain things that we can do that are going to be more triggering or more upsetting. Top of the tier is let's sexually assault them. Second stop down is let's give them a baby crisis.
I mean, I guess we are opening the film with child abuse, so, why not?
Sure. Oh my god. Maybe that's the theme. It's like, well... let's not go there. Just don't. Maybe just don't.
Break all those taboos.
Yeah. So Paige ends up getting attacked by Vincent in the tent. It's pretty quick. She runs out. We see that Blake already has been more or less killed. Vincent kills him on the way past.
Oh, but the knife stomp is pretty good, though.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
But yeah, then we get this chase scene.
Yeah. So Paige ends up running into this presumably sugar mill factory that has been abandoned, but we do see that it's filled with items that have been scavenged by victims, which of course is classic rural horror territory.
Yep.
Wrong Turn.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre does it.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Wolf Creek, all of the good films do it. So
yeah. But I will say, I really like this. I actually would have taken a longer bit because I feel like she dies too quickly.
Agreed, yeah. So she's running around. She's barefoot, which we know is going to come to no good. She gets stabbed through the heel by Vincent through the grating. She hides briefly in a car, and eventually she ends up getting impaled through the head by a pipe. And of course, we do that classic thing where her head then slides down it.
Well, and then Vincent grabs the camera and then videotapes him. Like he doesn't just slide down; he pushes her head down this pole. Of course, I think it's a really great death. This is a really great scene. Unfortunately, it does lend itself to, Paris Hilton taking pole. Paris Hilton gets a pole in the face. I'm like, okay, guys, like we get it.
Well, and even the videotaping it feels like one final just grody kind of thing to do for this film, where we've already sexualized her, made you think of her sex tape, and now we're making you think of, oh, well, if she died, we could film it, and then it would be a snuff film.
And this wouldn't be as bad if this was a recurring theme throughout the movie with every single death.
Right, but we will never see another videotape section again.
No, and we make this big deal about the camera going missing, and I'm like, but just so we can get Paris Hilton videotaped dying?
Yeah, and then it comes up in the very last scene where we learn that Nick has actually stolen the camcorder from police evidence, but again, it comes to nothing. So it's a who gives a fuck. It literally feels like it just exists so that we can do this bit.
100%. Yes.
Yep, it's gross. I don't like it. So back in town, Nick steals a crossbow from the sporting store, then that immediately gets Beau's attention. He's now got a shotgun, so we flee into the movie theater and pose as wax figures who are watching what else? whatever happened to Baby Jane?
I love this entire sequence. I think this is so cool. I mean, I think it's a really dumb idea on Carly's part to like pretend to be a wax person because she doesn't look like a wax person.
No. I do love that Beau pretty quickly figures it out, because when he can't see her from the back, he just goes down so that the light is illuminating the entire audience, and then he can very clearly figure out who she is.
Wouldn't it make more sense to hide under the seats?
I mean, here's the thing. We're suggesting that she's foolish for doing this. This is actually part of the plan, right? We wanted to lure Beau.
Right.
We wanted to lure Beau out into the open so that Nick could shoot him with the crossbow, which is what happens.
Yeah, I will say though, I love it. Yeah, he chases her out of this auditorium, and then immediately after getting out this door, he gets a crossbow in the arm and the chest.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Good call on the siblings for being able to execute this plan. Unfortunately, it doesn't get them a gun because they realize they can't find any bullets. So this is also, I would say, where we get the most incestuous moment of the film, where Nick is like, okay, Carly, you run for help. I'm going to go see if I can find Wade in the house. And she's like, no, don't leave. I want to be with you. I'm going to stay with you forever. And you're like, what the fuck are we doing? Are these two going to go down right now?
They're out there. Be careful. I am being careful.
It's like, are you going to fuck and then go? What is happening right now?
But that's the other thing, too, where it's okay. Like, you know, they have a rift in the beginning and they come together during this moment of crisis. But it's like, and we get the explanation, as you said, as to why they have this rift between them. But it just, again, it all feels so manufactured that it doesn't really exactly ring true. But then, yeah, they have this chemistry that you're like, whoo.
Wait, am I meant to root for them to be final pairs?
In the words of Blake Lively, brother fucker.
Exactly. Yeah. Twincest to the max, activate. Okay, so we go off in search of Carly's cell phone and Beau's truck, but they can't find it, so they have to go into the house. This is where Carly finds pictures of the twins, one of whom is very clearly disfigured because, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Beau ends up stumbling in. He doesn't realize that they're there, so he's just trying to patch himself up.
Oh, this is fun, though. I like Carly having to, like, kind of sneak around. And the camera does some good work here, too, as we're, like, following her, hiding. And this feels very home invasion-y, almost.
Yeah, like reverse home invasion.
Yeah.
In the right degree. You know, it feels like maybe they might be able to get the tables turned on them. And then Vincent arrives, and I do appreciate that we get this very brief moment, but we at least see Carly acknowledge, oh shit, my friends are dead.
Oh, yeah. Also, like, seeing Paris Hilton's body with her leg hanging out at the back of that truck. Ooh. And then we see how abusive Beau is towards Vincent. And also, he calls him a fucking freak.
He does, yeah, because once again, we're portraying any kind of disability in this film as freakish.
Yep.
All right, so Carly and Nick explore the house. They wind up trying to flip a bunch of switches. I'm not really sure what they were hoping to achieve by this. All it really does is illuminate the fact that they are there because the brothers clearly see all the lights in town going on and off. Yeah,
and we get that moment of realization from Beau, and it's like, you fucking... Well, maybe they were just hoping like a trap door would open, Scooby-Doo style?
Wait, is the way out down? Flip switch. No. Nick ends up discovering Dalton's decapitated wax body. And folks, if you think that we were reaching with this queer reading, look at Nick's reaction when he sees what has happened to Dalton and then realizes that he has inadvertently re-decapitated this body. He looks like he has lost a lover.
Chad Michael Murray does not give a great... It's fine. It's not great.
Right.
But his best acting moment is in this scene. You see heartbreak in his eyes.
Yes.
And it is the only moment of true, like, pathos I get out of this character in this film.
Yeah, because the rest of the time he's very much trying to be the man. He's posing and posturing. Even in his previous interactions with Dalton, it's been a lot of bro-y boastfulness. And here, it's not, oh no, I inadvertently injured the corpse of my friend. It's, holy fuck, I've lost the person that I am most close with in my life. And folks, this reads to me super fucking queer.
Well, because here's the thing. Looking at this wax-covered body, you're like, okay, well, he's clearly dead. And he is so consumed with grief that he has lost all reason and is like, I think he even says, let me get you out of this, buddy. And in doing so, like, it's super mean. Yeah, redecapitates him, like you said. And you hear the crunch.
Oh, yeah.
And even Carly's, like, her reaction to it's really good, too. I mean, this is a genuinely good, like, grief moment, but it does ring as if, like, he's just lost a lover.
Because I compare this to something like Dalton discovering Wade. He's very much like, oh shit, oh my god, no. But he doesn't, I mean, Dalton is so dumb, he doesn't realize that Wade is probably already dead.
Yeah.
But you could argue that Nick has the same reaction. Like, when you see what has happened to Dalton, he is clearly not alive. And Nick's reaction is way bigger than Dalton was.
Well, also, it's not obvious this is Dalton, except that his eye is visible. So Nick recognizes this is Dalton solely by his eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, really good friends of mine, I cannot recognize you by your eyes.
No. Because I'm not gazing lustfully into them most of the time.
No, not at all. But yeah, I've never thought about that reading in this film because I've just never really paid attention to it, I guess, because I was like, whatever, body discovery. But
right.
Yeah, if you are looking for it, it's really obvious, even though it's probably unintentional.
Oh yeah, I don't for a second believe that Chad Michael Murray is playing this in a particular way, and yet the performance is giving it.
Yeah.
All right, so this doesn't last for very long because Vincent ends up discovering them almost immediately. So we have not really even a fight at this point. It's more of a let's get the fuck out of here. And this is where we start to light the house on fire.
Yeah, I think when people talk about this movie, how many times have I said that in this episode? But this is a highlight. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
I think we should absolutely commend the practical effects in this movie.
Yes.
They are truly... And that is part of Jaume Collet-Serra's intention. Like, he did not want to use any kind of digital effects unless he absolutely had to.
Yeah, there's a featurette on this Scream Factory Blue where they talk about how the special effects are used, and it's very much to augment. So there's even a scene where we see the dead bodies of Beau and Vincent getting covered up in kind of like a liquid, and that was done with actual liquid while they kind of laid on a mat, and then they just put in some of the fire behind them using... CGI. Well,
all of this, honestly, there are only about 3 or 4 shots in this movie that looked actively bad. And in the entire movie, not just the sequence. And it is when we have the exterior shots of the house melting and when Carly and Nick are like sinking down into the ground. Like, it looks so bad.
Fake.
If only because the rest of it looks so good. I mean, it would look bad no matter what, actually. But it looks worse because the rest of it looks so good.
Right. Like, folks, if you want to see how bad fire looks, as much as we love it, go back and look at the end of Orphan First Killed, because it's really easy to do bad houses on fire.
Yes. And, we argue that film is so campy that it kind of, like, adds to the camp factor. This one is not doing camp.
No, not at all.
But yeah, so we get... I mean, this is just fun. I mean, watching... I can't imagine having to shoot this and be the... is it the line... something, whoever's in charge of continuity to make sure that all the melting stuff was like timing right.
Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, I think we're doing some of this in inserts so that we could just capture it in close up and get a better look at what some of these figures look like when they begin to melt. But yeah, keeping track of, okay, so what stage is the second floor at? And if we do an overhead shot, do we need to make sure that the stairwell has melted to a certain degree here versus there?
One thing I actually didn't even suspect in this, but we have miniatures for some of these interior shots. There's an overhead shot where the stairs give out, and that's miniature.
Yeah. And P.S. bring back more miniature work, because that's another reason this all looks great.
And so we get this fight between Carly and Beau, which is she beats the fuck out of this guy with a baseball bat.
She does, yeah. So Nick and Beau first start to fight. She briefly gets knocked out. But then after Nick gets stabbed in the leg, it's basically up to Carly to do most of the heavy lifting because he's bleeding out. He's kind of limping around. She fully kills Beau. And you keep waiting for her to do the classic horror movie thing where she hits him a couple times and then she'll grab the brother and run off. Oh, no. She's in it to win it. She's here for the heavyweight champion. She's going to beat this guy to death.
Oh, yeah. His face is beaten to... I do kind of like the fact, then, that Vincent is our final villain. Vincent is a cipher in this film because he doesn't speak. Like, we don't know anything about him except for the reveal that, yes, he was the quote-unquote good beat brother in the opening scene. But I love that we just get rid of Beau. It's like, fuck you, man.
Well, I will say there's a couple of moments where I think the film doesn't trust us and thinks that we're stupid. Like the moment before we get the fight between Nick and Beau, as they're sort of running to escape from Vincent in the chamber where Dalton has been killed in the basement, we run by the twins' chairs from that opening sequence and we see Beau and Vincent. And I'm just like, yeah, movie, we know. we get it. So dumb.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, Vincent arrives very shortly after Beau has been killed, immediately goes after Carly, so she has to cut and run upstairs.
Upstairs.
Right. I mean, I don't know that she realizes how bad the fire has gotten out of control at this point. Like, we've seen figures start to melt, but we also very clearly start to see giant holes starting to appear in the floor.
I also think we start to see Beau's body sinking into the floor during this point.
Mm-hmm. So she runs upstairs and she ends up locking herself in this bedroom. But of course, because the house is melting, all of the walls and surfaces have become sort of malleable. She ends up using this ridiculous wax conjoined baby in.
I mean, it's okay, like this.
It's so dumb, and yet I kind of love it, because if you're going to say camp, stuff like this is camp, where Vincent cuts through the door with his knife and he cuts through the conjoined twin wax figure.
And we have, I guess it's a tracking shot because we're going from up to down, but like, we followed the knife down as he slices through the wax twins, and it's like.
It's so silly.
It's so silly. I love how he peels open the wax door, which is really cool.
Oh, I love that.
And then we have Carly standing on this wax bed, which, by the way, they're all like disgusting. This is a lot of peanut butter, by the way, that they were using for the wax.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I do love seeing them struggle. Like, at one point, Nick will try to get up the stairs and his foot gets stuck, kind of like Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street. Mm-hmm. And it's great watching him struggle. Like, there is such a viscosity to this entire final set piece because they were doing it with practicals. So there's a tangibility to it that we don't get if they had just said, don't worry, we'll do it in post.
Well, and that is the other thing, too, because honestly, after this, I mean, yes, we get The Reaping, and then we get Orphan and Whiteout the same year, which are both all Dark Castle. But it's one of those things where I think because this movie underperforms, like Dark Castle is not giving $40 million to movies like this anymore. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this is really the last of those Dark Castle movies where we have production design on this level.
I mean, unless you want to talk about the house porn and Orphan, but sure.
Yeah, but like they didn't build, well, maybe they built some of that, but like, that's just a house, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, this feels like the last big movie house we're going to get from Dark Castle.
Yeah. I also love, Carly's on this bed and she's holding the bat. She's like trying to like get through to Vincent, who is not
You're
having it.
Not a freak, Beau. He was using you. He was abusing you.
I was like, Carly, you got to do a little bit better than that.
Carly, you sound desperate, girl. We get it. He's coming at you with a big ass knife.
But I do love, she's just like, please don't kill me.
Exactly. That has never worked.
It doesn't work. And it's, I don't know how to make, it just comes across as very funny when she says this. And I don't know if it's really, I don't think Cuthbert could have done anything to make this less funny for me, but I just love, she's just like last ditch ever, please don't kill me.
I mean, I feel like it's relatable. We would probably all do it. Obviously, this is when Nick bursts in and saves her. One thing I completely forgot about is that Nick ends up on the bottom. He's in trouble. And Carly pulls the knife out of his leg to stab Vincent. That is some rough shit.
And well, not only that, because then I think Nick kicks Vincent off the bed, who then falls through the floor all the way to the basement and lands smack dab on top of Beau.
Which, again, if we're going to talk a little bit of campy and a little bit queer, right? It's like, cool, twin falls on twin. Well, happy birthday.
We're reuniting them. They are now conjoined again.
Ugh.
And then the melted wax pool that's below them just rises up and covers them.
Yeah, encases them. It's very poetic. It does feel like we're trying to pay off this whole twinning thing, right? Like, Carly and Nick had to finally sort out their issues, come together to survive, but also the conjoined twins end up conjoined once again.
Yeah. Again, it's like, okay, like we're doing, you don't need to do this, you stupid little slasher, but fine. Like, whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. It feels like it should have been something bigger, and it might have been if we had executed this just a little bit better. But at the end of the day, again, I appreciate that they were at least making this effort, because they didn't. They could have just done, all right, stupid movie climax, cut, here we go, and then we make our hasty escape.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I was saying earlier, right? Like, I admire so many things about the script, while also limiting the fact that it's not all executed correctly or properly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said, and then you repeated it, but yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. You rephrased what I said, and I repeated it.
You know what? You gave me the first draft, I gave you the script polish, and here we are.
See, that's what the script should have done.
Yes, where were we? Where were we for the polish? Okay. So we're safe from the killers, but the house is still now sinking and very much on fire. So we have to dig through this wax wall because the stairwell has fallen in, and we come out right through literally the movie title, House of Wax.
And God, it's this so yes, they're crawling out of this thing and it's sinking and it looks really bad, but there is one shot of like the tower of the house that starts to fold over.
Yeah,
it looks so bad. I'm like, just remove that shot, please, from this movie. I don't need it.
I don't love it. I don't feel as bad about this as I think you do. Like, when they're in the letters and it's sinking, it looks okay.
The close-up does.
Terrible. Yeah, the close-up looks good. I do think all of the kind of long shots or extreme long shots, you're right, they don't look super great. But by this point, the visual spectacle of seeing this house on fire, I think, is mostly really, really good.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so we have survived, and now it's the light of day. Police are swarming all over the scene. They basically give us, the post-exposition dump of why they couldn't find this town previously, why they never interfered. They do make a mention of, if that house hadn't burned down, we probably never would have found you. So we load the twins up into the ambulance. Nick reveals that he stole the camera. Again, I don't know why, but sure.
Yeah, so you want to watch all your friends get murdered? Okay.
Are you going to sell this? Do you think this is a TMZ thing?
I have no idea what the reasoning for this is, but they're fine. They're getting wheeled away to wherever... Well, again, how did the cars all get into this town if there was no road into the town?
Maybe they patched over that little creek and...
Sure. Maybe the wax melted enough all the way over there and made a road for them.
Oh my God, stop. Ooh, I did realize the reason why he took the camcorder is because it's his dead lover's camera. So he was like, I want to remember the guy I never got to fuck.
Example number 4. Holy shit, you're right. You are 100% right. You were... It's his memento.
It's a sad memento. Aww.
So he's not going to watch. He's just going to put it on a pedestal for the rest of his life, literally and figuratively. And all of his future lovers will have to live up to this camera.
Yeah. Just what's up with the camera in the shrine over there? Just, memento of my dead first boyfriend.
I'm surprised he didn't grab Dalton's head.
Oh my God. What? He's going to high tension fuck it later?
God.
Rude. Anyway, final twist. Yes, there's a third brother. It was
Lester.
Lester, thank you. Yes, Lester the molester, roadkill driver. And we out.
Also, the Wikipedia summary refers to him as Lester, though he is not credited in the cast list on Wikipedia. So again, take that with a grain of salt.
Where are people coming up with this? Is this like the Friday the 13th wikis where it's like, and they were buried in the same plot?
Oh, I mean, everyone, again, reminder to use footnotes, check your sources, but according to the IMDb trivia...
Oh, no.
The role of Carly, Alicia Cuthbert's role, was originally offered to Jennifer Connelly, who turned it down to do Dark Water, and then it was offered to Kate Winslet, who then turned it down.
Says who?
That is not correct.
Or we're just making shit up and putting it on the internet.
Neither of these women are teenagers, or at least 20-somethings to be teenagers.
Just imagining a 35-year-old Kate Winslet walking in being like, hey, Chad Michael Murray, my twin brother. Is she doing a British accent too?
Here's the thing. Kate Winslet is a class act, but I'm just trying to imagine a world in which someone approached her to be like, hi, would you like to be in House of Wax? It's like the Amy Adams reply where it's like, no, I'm so sorry. No, I don't want to do this, but you have a good day.
Can you imagine them saying, we just need to do a little audition tape to make sure you're going to be a good fit for the role. Can you say, that guy was such a fucking freak, but say it in a classic Kate Winslet British accent?
Oh, but we also need to do a chemistry test with Chad Michael Murray. Can you please come and make out with his brother?
I'll never leave you. I want to be by your side.
So anyway, yes, that is literally a factoid in the IMDb trivia, and y'all,
no,
there's no way, there's no fucking way.
IMDb, what you been smoking, girl? Because that's not right.
But yeah, sequel tease, whatever. It's fine.
Not with that gross.
Yeah, we're definitely not getting that shit. But then, cut to credits, and we get this My Chemical Romance song, which I have no connection to, but apparently this song was released 2 months before the movie came out and was a huge hit. To the point where My Chemical Romance is often just like linked with this song specifically.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I mean, I like My Chemical Romance, but yeah, I don't have a connection to them.
My sister listened to them when I was growing up, so I've heard their music. I couldn't tell you a single one of their songs, but there you go.
Sacrilege.
I know. But yeah, that's House of Wax, Joe. Final thoughts?
You know what? I like a lot about this movie. Going through it with a critical eye revealed some inaccuracies, a little bit of ineptness. I do wish that these characters didn't either get separated or had the opportunity to come back. Maybe it would just produce a completely different movie. But yeah, I miss the Carly and Paige connection because I do think it's the strongest bit of character development. Either that or go full camp and have this twincesty brother-sister relationship. Like, let's get these people fucking in the hot wax.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. I mean, Joe, this movie came out 17 years ago. So that means...
How dare you?
People born the year this movie came out are now old enough to see it because they're 17 and they can see an R-rated movie. But
also, are you forgetting what year it is? It's 2023 now, right?
Oh shit! It's 18 years old. Fuck! It'll be 18 in May. Oh my god. If we ever got a remake of this movie, I would love to. I feel like we would see more of a developed female friendship in this film.
Right. If we got that, though, I would want them to call it Tourist Trap.
Oh, God. Actually, it's a remake of House of Wax.
Actually, it's Motel Hell.
Thanks. Oh, my God. I mean, look, we have spent a lot of this episode critiquing and poking holes in this movie, but again, at the end of the day...
It's a fun time.
It's an 80s slasher that was given an astronomical budget, excellent production value, a really stylish and visual director.
Yeah.
A lot of the dumb parts of it come with the territory for me. But there are things about it that I'm like, ooh, like, I wish you would have done this to actually make it better. But a lot of the dumb stuff, like a literal House of Wax, that's not factoring into my critique of this film.
Oh, absolutely not. If your problem is that there's a literal House of Wax, this is not a movie for you. You need to move on. Very
much so. So yeah, big recommend, 4 out of 5. If you've never seen this, well, we've spoiled it all for you, but please, please go seek this out. It's a really solid film, and I'm happy to see it get a bit reappraised over the past few years.
Right, and appropriated now by the queer community because of this alternate reading that we have correctly provided.
Spread the word, everyone. We were there first.
Yeah, Chad Michael Murray, queer icon, gay character in this movie.
There you go. Asshole in real life in 2005. Before we announce what we're covering next week, if you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us on Twitter and Instagram at HorrorQueers. Shoot us an email at horrorqueers@gmail.com. Find us on Letterboxd to keep track of all the films we've covered. Go to our YouTube channel to check out our interviews with various horror filmmakers, as well as our monthly hangouts where we talk about hot button issues with some of our peers. And if you want to chat with other listeners, please join our Facebook Horror Queers group. If you have a moment, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That really helps us out. But if you'd like to support us with money, please support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/horrorqueers. We are at the end of January, so hopefully you've listened to our episodes on Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge, The Pale Blue Eye, Megan, Skinamarink, which actually just dropped the same day this episode drops, and our audio commentary on Cloverfield in honor of its 15th anniversary.
All right. And also, we snuck in a secret bonus episode on Kevin Williamson's Sick.
Yeah, if you want to hear our thoughts on the very, very last-minute release of Sick, which was, of course, co-written by Kevin Williamson and Caitlin Crabb, please go check that out as well. That's a actual bonus episode we gave our patrons this month.
Yeah, folks, we've broken the 225-hour mark on Patreon, so... a lot of shit on there.
A lot of shit. I mean, good shit, like not bad shit.
Good shit, yeah.
Joe, what are we talking about next week?
All right, so Trace, We have our respective birthdays in February, so it's a bit of a big deal. And we decided we were going to spend the month doing a theme. So we're going to be talking about weird sex movies for the entire month. So of course we had to kick it off, because it's closer to my birthday, with a Canadian film. We're revisiting Cronenberg territory. We're going to talk about Videodrome for its 40th anniversary.
Y'all might know, I'm not a big fan of Videodrome. However, I've only seen it once, and it was not with a critical eye. So I'm actually really excited to rewatch this and really give it like a proper watch.
Yeah, this isn't my favorite Cronenberg film, but it is one that I'm eager to do a deep dive with you. There's a lot going on here, and unfortunately, we just have to acknowledge that shitty person James Wood is in this movie.
Oh yeah, he is the lead, but you know what? Chest vagina. So, and Debbie Harry. Queer content right there.
Honestly, fucking style icon. She's so good in this movie.
Yeah, that was my one takeaway from my one-time viewing of this film, is that I really liked Debbie Harry in it.
No, it's gonna be a good time.
But all right, until then, we can cross out House of Wax.
Indeed, and cross out horror queers. My dog has one testicle.
Atlas Avenue, a long stretch of road that encompasses everything the city of Kenneth Heights has to offer. Neon lights, traffic, crime, the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and the craziest of characters. My office was above it all. My name is James Locke, and I'm a PI.
Hello, Mr. J. How the hell you doing today?
Good, Edith. Nearly every year I have a new case. New people to meet, new clues to discover, and new problems to solve. But I do it the old-fashioned way. No technology. Nothing post-1950. Hell, I don't even listen to podcasts, but you should. Atlas Avenue Beat is a spoof of the film noir genre with goofy characters, tons of wordplay, and non-stop raunchy humor. There's also 3 whole seasons out right now with more on the way. Just search for Atlas Avenue Beat wherever you listen to podcasts or visit us online at bloody.fm.